Hello, and welcome to my harmonic analysis of my recent arrangement of Alice in Wonderland, the short little clip that I put on Instagram. So I already went through here on the score, and the harmony is this top stav on the top line, and I've highlighted where it sort of detracts from where the usual harmony would be. And I actually referenced a lead sheet when I made this chart, where it says shape sequence. We'll talk about that later, but that's basically I took the same shape and just planed it around. And then minor thirds, I just took the melody and went down in minor thirds. Fourths, same thing, but with fourths. And then that's just a little sidestep thing at the end. So let's listen through, and I will do my best to scroll the score down as it plays. Okay. I actually only did two A's here, and the whole song is two A's, a B, and then one last A. But we'll just go through this one little snippet at a time, and I'll explain what I was thinking for this. So no chord, in case you are unaware, means... NC means no chord, if you have not seen that before. And that just means that there's nothing going on here, no chords or anything. It's just the melody to start out with cornet. And then we get here. I wanted to outline these chords, but I didn't want too many voices going on. And I saw that this line is a nice little chromatic movement, and it doesn't get in the way of the melody here. So I chose to have this voice come in just to provide a little bit of structure. And then once we get to this chord that's a little bit out, we have the pyramid effect of these voices coming in. And what I mean by that is that this guy comes in on 1, he comes and a 1, on 2, and a 2, and then on 3. So it's a cascading entrance where each voice enters one at a time. And that's a good way to sort of provide some excitement to the listener. So these chords are pretty normal. I think on the lead sheet it was probably that to like something like that. But I changed it around a little bit. The cool thing about jazz harmony is that it's fairly flexible. So as long as you understand the function and where something is going, then you can switch it out with equivalent chords. So we would refer to this as a dominant. And then even though this would normally be like an E minor, I think on the lead sheet, these chords are like going to C. So I changed this to C. This is a subdominant chord right here, which means it comes right before, it precedes the dominant. So I changed that out with a G9 sus, because I sort of wanted this pedal thing going on where the bass just stays, and then these voices, well, these two don't change at all actually, but this is a really nice motion because we have contrary motion going on actually. So this is the main note here, and it goes up a whole step to the E, and then this is the main note here, and it goes down a half step to the A flat. Let's see. This is a nice little technique that I like to use, where if you're on a tonic chord, like C major, for example, here, and you want to get to the 5 chord, but you don't necessarily want the bass to jump around like that, obviously, because it either has to go down a 4th or up a 5th, you can invert the 5 chord and put the bass on the 3rd of the 5 chord, and then you end up having the bass go down just one half step. If you've never seen this type of chord before, G2, that would just be like G, A, D. So it's sort of like G sus, where G sus would be this. But when it's over B, like it is in this context, it ends up just being a G major chord with an added 2 for color. And then I wanted to continue this half step motion down. So I stuck this B flat down here, and I had the melody here. You can never change the melody, at least not too much, unless you know what you're doing. And then I was like, what chord can go with this? And then I settled on a dominant chord. So the 3rd and the 7 are vital to get that kind of structure. And then I added the sharp 11 for color, and it's also a nice intermediary between these two notes, the D and the F up there. So that sometimes the voicing that you use is sort of like a puzzle. So you know that you have these things that are set, and then you have to figure out what other notes are going to go in between. And then I continued the bass down. I think this is what's already in the standard changes, these two, on the lead sheet. And then just voiced this out how I normally would. So that's a 7, 3rd, a sharp 5 here. This actually is really nice when you have a major or minor 3rd in the melody and the second voice. 3rds in general are very consonant and pleasing to the ear. Also, this register, just because I play trombone, and I know this is cornet here, and this is bass trumpet, so it's not really trombone. But on trombone, I know that those notes together, those 4 notes in that context, are really nice. And it did end up working, so there you go. Okay, so we're setting up the end of the first phrase. This is pretty much our arrival. That's like the very last note of the melody of the first phrase. And I don't quite give a nice release there because I put the root on, or I put the tonic chord, which would be the 1 chord in whatever key you're in. I put it with the bass out on the 3rd. And that was because I was preparing to do some more, to add in a lot more chords here. And this is another like chromatic thing where I put the first, the bass line down, and then I had the melody here, and I was like, okay, what are all these notes going to be? And I filled those in, which can be kind of time intensive, but you fiddle around with it and then you'll get a good result. And then these chords I just found to set up well for the key change. It's going to D major, but actually when the melody comes in, it's like on the 5 chord. So it's going to A7 basically, some kind of A dominant. And this is, we actually saw this earlier. I reused this voicing from over here. Not the exact voicing, but those chords. And then B flat is a half step down again. So this is just straight up A sus with a 9 right here. Oh, and a 13. So it's kind of like, but there's no 7. So I don't know what you call that chord. It's kind of delicate territory here because we have doubled the A both times. So these chords are very important. And we've got nice half step motion down in both those voices while this one stays the same. Okay, let's get into this shape sequence. Now, what does that even mean? What I did was I found a shape that I liked. So I'm like, okay, this E major chord, that's what this is, with a F sharp on top. Sounds good. So what you can do is be like, I want to keep that exact same shape and then just plane it around a little bit. So this is the 2 of E major. That's what F sharp is. So what is D the 2 of? Oh, C major. So it goes C, G, E. This is an example of how you would come up with these kind of voicings yourself. So then these are actually already set. This is the melody. So that's already in. And actually when I write charts, I'll usually just put the whole melody out before I even voice anything out. And then secondly would probably come bass notes, but not always. Like these chords, for example, I wouldn't jump on these bass notes because I don't think of it related that way. I think of it as down a whole step, so that's to G, and then this is the root of our little triad here, so G, D, B. Of course, to do that, you need to know all your triads in all 12 keys. So if you don't know that and you want to arrange stuff, learn your major, at least your major triads inside and out. Okay, back to the normal harmony, pretty much. Oh, actually no, C major 7. I think because this would have been C sharp, half diminished, because we're going to B minor here. But this is a nice half step thing. That's probably why I did that. And then I just filled these in with being like, oh, it could be C major 7. But it works out because we've got some resolutions here. That's standard stuff. These are just like bread and butter voicings. So I'll write in the, what is that called? Scale degrees real quick so you can see what those are. Like nothing crazy going on here, no alterations. F add 2. This is another pyramid effect where they come in staggered. That's supposed to be a plus. 2 plus 3. And then I do another shape sequence here, but this is a different shape. So it's C major on top of an F, pretty much. Or a major chord with the third. So this is our root for all of these. And I keep going until right here. That's when it changes. Here's how you can think of it, though. Yeah, so this is like a D major with the 4. You can think of it as like the 4 underneath it. E flat major with the 4 under. It's the same one as, so these two are the same. So you don't have to create that chord, obviously. You want to think about time saving stuff as well when you're writing. These are minor thirds. That's a lowercase m. It's hard to tell though. So I was like, okay, I've got these intervals that are sort of static. What if I just keep going with that idea? So these are all minor thirds, and then fourths seem to work for this bar, so I kept that. And then I expanded it to include another voice, the fifth voice, and then these are all fifths. So that's what I mean. When it says this, that's like a fourth right there. And that refers to the interval between notes, if you're not keen on that jargon. Just a straight up G major chord here to sort of bring it back. So this is the 4 chord of the key that we're in. Oh, right. Why did I write it like that? Should be more like that if you're talking functional harmony. Okay. And then this is from Up Jump Spring. Freddie Hubbard song. You should go check out if you haven't heard it. It just has this rhythmic figure, and I think it's harmonically very similar to what I put here. So that's where I stole that from. Kind of a interesting voicing at the end. So we've got the root on top, which is not really audible at that point because it's already been held for this long. That's another thing. The longer a note is held, the less you notice it. So it'll have less impact than these notes say, even though it's on the top. Root 5th, sharp 11, 3rd, and root. So it's not a major 7, it's not a dominant, it's not a minor 7. It's a major chord with an added sharp 11 there for color. If you got any questions about all this stuff that I covered today, go ahead and put it in the comments. I will do my best to read all your questions and answer them. And if you are a fan of this content, then go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.